Hi, Jovi. My name is Ellen, and I will be correcting these essays for you. Let's take a look at what you've written. The first question is about schools and if they should be more entertaining. Here's what you wrote. Schools are adding more interesting elements to the school curriculum, comma, aiming to enhance the, here, study experience. While there are various benefits to making, you want an ing here, school life enjoyable, there might be numerous drawbacks to this, and we will discuss these in this essay now. Okay, so as you can see, there were a number of grammatical mistakes that I had to correct. You want to avoid grammatical mistakes. Introduction. Remember that the introduction acts as the first impression for your examiner, and so you want to be a strong impression that is error-free. Let's keep going. Perhaps a major advantage of making school life entertaining is increasing students' motivation to study. That would be better. For example, most of the US high schools have implemented interactive multimedia in their curriculum to make classroom learning more enjoyable. In addition, their syllabus consists of 30% group projects and 70% conventional textbook learning. Okay, this is proven. No, not this is proven. That's incorrect. Let's see. This is proven that pupils' engagement rate at school improved. You know what you could have said? You could have said studies have shown that pupils' engagement rate at school improved through various interactive activities, thus reducing the chance of playing truant. Furthermore, research by Columbia University, capitalize your U, states that students assimilate knowledge, singular, it's uncountable, better through interactive learning, no S, such as group activities, experiments, and interactive media than conventional textbook learning method, resulting in improvement of motivation to explore new knowledge and thus enhancing academic performance. Oh boy, okay, a lot of information. Consequently, students can develop all-round skills such as critical thinking, problem-solving, analytical skill through participation, group projects, and team activities that would be beneficial to their career progression in the future. Okay, so the first thing I want to tell you is that this is long, okay? Maybe a little too long. All right, you were at 303 words, which is not the problem, but I felt for sure that your paragraph was maybe a little longer than it should have been. Now I want to show something. I want to show you something. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 lines here. And then here you've got 2, 4, 6, 8. So as you can see, your first body paragraph is almost twice as long as your second body paragraph. And it felt really long. Okay. It felt like it was just study after study after study. It also felt like it was a little repetitive. Like you kept talking about multimedia. You kept talking about like group work. So some of it felt repetitive. I'm wondering if you could have cut some of this out, maybe made it a little more concise. And then what you could have done is maybe make this a little more developed. Basically balance out your paragraphs a little better, all right? Because you wrote 22 lines of paragraphs here. Okay, so it was 14 and 8, so it's 22 lines, but the vast majority are here in this paragraph. So I would have liked it to be balanced, not like 11-11. Don't be like obsessive about it, but make it feel a little more balanced. So let's look at this one more time. And then we're going to talk about what for me is an even bigger issue. So making school entertaining, motivation to study. Okay. And then you said the high schools in America do this. Great. Then you talked about group projects and conventional textbook learning. And then it said the engagement rate improved. Okay. Now, my question to you is group projects considered entertainment? Okay. My thought is not really. Okay. I remember being in high school or school in general, and doing group projects, and I can assure you, I was not entertained. Okay, it was a lot of work. It was trying to coordinate with other people, but you wouldn't say entertaining. Now, why do I say that? Because what does entertainment mean? Entertainment means fun, enjoyment, lighthearted, joyful, joyous. Okay, these things. Um, Entertainment is something that kind of whisks us away in a fun, kind of lighthearted atmosphere. So think games, think theater, watching, not playing in it, or watching movies, or maybe role plays, or fun games. Okay, so um, that was the bigger issue that I want to talk to you about. All right, so you had I was fine up to here. This was fine. I do have an issue with this sentence though. These two sentences, okay? Let's see. And then you talked about this, for me felt a little repetitive. You talked about the high school students. You talked about interactive media, multimedia, and then you already talked about group work. And then again, here you are with interactive group activities and again, interactive multimedia. So this felt for me really repetitive. Okay. And there was nothing at all about games, about movies, about like role plays, things that make the learning environment feel lighter and maybe more kind of like play, um, play type learning. Does that make sense? Um, let's see. And then again, you talked about it just felt repetitive, honestly. Like this whole thing about Columbia University, maybe you were trying to just kind of solidify and underline what you said before, but to me it felt very repetitive. Okay. And I think you could have left some of that out and instead talked about things like games in class, talked about role plays in class, talking about maybe showing movies and other fun activities. Okay. All right. On the other hand, it is arguable that academic performance is the core measurable output for studying at school. An academic focused school environment is set to increase students' concentration, thus maximizing learning output. An activity based learning, not an activity based learning, just get rid of an and say activity based learning would potentially distract students from focusing on their study, leading to underperformance, no an here too, in academic results and therefore possibly impacting, because look, leading to something and possibly impacting their career opportunities in a negative way. Nevertheless, students might not be interested, careful with your grammar, in studying due to boredom and lack of relevance to textbook context. All right, this sentence does not help you. I would not have put this in at all. You're basically undermining everything you've said. You just had a paragraph which talked about the importance of academic only classes, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, but students might not like this. No, that's not where this belongs. Okay? Because what you're doing is you've just kind of undermined your argument. Let's see what you wrote in the next in the conclusion. In conclusion, I believe that schools should be more innovative in planning their school curriculum to make the learning experience more entertaining. This would create drivers. I'm not sure what you mean here. And curiosity in studying. I really don't know what you mean by drivers. In studying and eventually achieve the goal of learning at school. Okay. So what I want to look at now is, well, there might be various benefits. There might be drawbacks as well. So you were kind of somewhere in the middle, weren't you? I really would like you to avoid that. It asks you which do you agree with. So you should at least 5149 be kind of in favor of one and make that clear because we do need to know your perspective. They ask which do you agree with. So I would have liked you to be a little more in favor of one rather than the other. So it's really interesting here that this was the really long paragraph. This was the really short paragraph. Typically, this is the paragraph that we assume you're supporting, the one that is closer to the conclusion. Because first you talk about the side that you don't support, and then you talk about the side that you do support. So it's interesting that the other paragraph was the much longer, much more fully developed one, and then this one was much shorter. So again, as I said before, balance your paragraph size as much as possible. Okay. But also try to be a little more clear about what side you're on. I think it's great to argue both sides of the argument. I really do. I think it allows for a better developed essay. But again, you need to talk about um, you need to talk about both sides and where the validity is to both sides, but you still have to make your viewpoint clear. All right, so let's take a look at your second essay about doing an enjoyable activity with a child. Please be careful. Children is not with an S, never, never, unless there's an apostrophe. Children are encouraged to participate in various pleasurable activities to develop different types of techniques and promote creativity. Techniques is not the word you want here. Okay? It's the wrong word. It's skills, essentially. I know you were trying to, you could have said dexterities even. That would have been fine, but not techniques. Schools provide numerous extracurricular activities these days for this purpose. There are arguments supporting that reading, what's going on here? There are arguments supporting reading at least as equally important as joining activities. All right, this sentence has grammatical issues. It's a problem. And this is something I don't want you to do. Not this essay will discuss both views and give a concluding view. No, it's asking you to what extent do you agree. Tell me in the introduction. This is really important because if you look at the band descriptors for task achievement under band 7, it says present a clear position throughout the response. The position is your answer to whatever this is. And throughout means from the beginning to the end. So don't leave the examiner wondering what your position is and waiting until the conclusion to find out. The examiner wants to know from your introduction what your position is. Okay? So this needs to be fixed grammatically. And then here you need to just tell us what your position is. Okay? Let's keep going. Okay, so you decided you're going to talk about both. So one thing that you should do here is I like to call them while statements. So while reading can create a variety of skills in children, overall activities allow for a wider range of skills and creativity. Okay, so that's a good way of doing this. Start your sentence with while and talk about, yeah, well, this is true. However, on the whole, I think this is true. Okay, so that's what I would recommend rather than this essay will discuss, etc., etc. Let's keep going. Firstly, children benefit from joining various types of pursuits through participation and application of skills. For example, sports games are recommended at school because pupils can learn cooperation through teamwork activities. In addition, students can develop strategies and learn problem-solving skills in playing sports games. I don't know why you keep calling them sports games. Just call them sports. These mind training exercises can develop cognitive abilities in school-age children. A second example would be painting and handicraft classes. Period. Here, new sentence. It is broadly believed that art classes can stimulate creativity and imaginary skills. Pupils can design an art sculpture and visualize their ideas into presentation. This is again beneficial to brain development. Okay, fine. You talked about skills. You talked about creativity. Okay, I would have liked maybe a little more detail. Like this for me felt very broad. Brain development. Like what does that mean? So maybe you could have talked about something else. Here you talked about teamwork. You talked about problem solving. And then cognitive abilities. So here, yeah, I mean, you could have talked about hand-eye coordination. You could have talked about fine motor skills, and then you could have talked about how children who participate in art classes are found to do better in problem-solving activities that require creativity than children who do not. So that something like that would have been nice. All right, now I notice here that you have on the other hand, and here you had firstly. So a couple of rules about these linking devices. When you use firstly, you have to use secondly. Okay, it doesn't make sense to have a firstly with no secondly. However, I do agree that here in this essay, on the other hand, is better. Unfortunately, when you use on the other hand, it means that you should have used in the first paragraph on the one hand, because these two go together. So it should be on the one hand and then here on the other hand. This is what you do when you're presenting two different sides of an argument. Okay, firstly and secondly would have worked if you were just presenting one side of an argument. But when you're looking at both perspectives, opposite perspectives, then you want to use on the one hand and on the other hand. Okay, so let's keep going. On the other hand, there are many advantages associated with reading in childhood. I don't know what happened to your grammar here. There are many advantages associated with reading in childhood. Books are known to be the record of wisdom. Children can learn new knowledge, get rid of the S, and information from books and industrial magazines. I don't know what an industrial, all right, I guess. Possibly leading to new idea. Get rid of that S because this is acting like an adjective. New idea is your adjective for the word generation. However, it might be hard for children to relate knowledge in books to the real world due to lack of practical experiments. For example, reading a cookbook might not necessarily create a good chef. One might be able to follow the recipes in a book without creating a new one. All right, I don't understand why you decided to do this. Remember what we're talking about here. We're talking about skills development. We're talking about creativity. That's what your focus should have been. So here, rather than talking about the weaknesses after you've just talked about the strengths of reading, you should have continued just talking about the strengths of reading. So how does reading help with skills development and creativity? Well, for number one, it helps in creativity because children are imagining these make believe worlds and characters and their voices and their faces, and so it really allows them to develop their imagination. It develops a lot of skills like vocabulary skills, literacy skills, comprehension. um, so there's a ton of things that it helps create, okay, in terms of skills. Okay, so that's what you needed to focus on. So none of this, oh, well, reading is good, but hey, you know what? It has this drawback. That keeps you from having one central idea. And having one central idea in your paragraph is key to getting a good score for coherence and cohesion. So in conclusion, I believe there are many positive effects on children. What? To enjoying and activities? That's strange. I believe there are many positive effects on children who participate in activities, I guess. It helps pupils to apply new techniques into different scenarios, not into, too. While reading is a good habit, the lack of learning engagement is probably the downside of reading. You can't, when you have while, you can't have but. It's either one or the other. Okay? So it's a good first set. I see a lot of things I like, but I also see a lot of things that I need you to work on, especially in your next set. All right, so go ahead and get started on your next set of essays. Don't forget to correct these and return them back to us all together. And of course, there's your error correction list, which you need to get started too. All right, let's meet back here with our next set of essays. Good luck.